Haleakala home too. Though defeated at Haleakala, Pele rose one more time and this time made her home in the fire pit of Kilauea, the still active volcano on the island of Hawaii. And it's said that her spirit lives there to this day. There are many legends and chants surrounding Pele, but now you know how Haleakala was part of her journey.
Hai chị em đánh nhau hả? Con kia là fire, bà Pele là fire.
Bà Pele là
bà nó
là bà Pele là bà.
Your sisters. Một người thì là fire, một người thì là sea, ocean. Cái nước nó ấy lên, nó đánh cái lửa đi, nó dập tắt cái lửa. Bà này chạy.
And I'm not sure that the cows understand the concept of the road being a dangerous place. Watch for cows on some of the blind corners.
Nó nuôi cow ở đây open land.
We passed like 2 people on the way up. And I was like, oh good, I'm the first.
Nó có cho camping ở trên này không ta?
Chắc có không nữa. Lạnh đó.
Take one of the downhill bicycle rides from the crater. If you did any research to try to find a tour to join, you probably have already learned that a moratorium has been placed on the bike tours and no operators are allowed to provide the tours from inside the national park until further notice. The issue is safety. A tragic fatal crash in September 2007 saw the ban enforced. It was the second fatality within 12 months, and numerous injury accidents also have occurred. While it's a spectacular ride, 30 miles downhill all the way, the risk requires assessment by the park's authority before the tours will be allowed to continue. Some of the bicycle tour companies still are operating, but they launch the riders from outside the national park, starting at 6,500 feet elevation, or about 1/3 of the way down from the top. For us today, you get to come up to the crater with me instead. But if you feel that you really do want to ride a bike all the way down from the crater, you can do it as a private visitor. In fact, don't be surprised if we see some athletes training hard by riding up and down the mountain, including inside the national park. My buttons get sore just thinking about it. Only climbed halfway up the mountain so far.
Oh, 5,000 feet right
I
now.
don't think it's in there. I think it's in there.
5,000 feet more to go.
Con lấy ra rồi hả?
Yeah. Because I didn't think I would carry it up. But then
Think of tectonic plates as being like cracked eggshell, sitting on top of the flesh of a soft-boiled egg. The plate is a slab of irregularly shaped rock. They usually are made up of rock that is under the ocean and rock that is above land. Plate thickness can vary from about 5 miles to 150 miles deep, depending on the age of the rock. Thinner areas tend to be much younger rock. One of the biggest plates of the dozen or so that exist on the Earth is the Pacific Plate, and the Hawaiian Islands sit near the middle of it. These massive plates move slowly, as if floating along the top of a thick liquid. The Pacific Plate moves a few centimeters per year, a similar speed to the rate your fingernails grow. The movement is in a northwest direction, towards Japan and Russia. We see the effect when we get just a little higher. I'm going to talk about volcanoes, since we're driving up to the rim of the crater of one. I'll let you know the geology of how volcanoes formed the Hawaiian Islands. I'll do my best not to get too caught up in technical names and terminology. If you do have a deep interest in volcanoes, and especially about Hawaiian archipelago, then there are some excellent books available that are really very interesting and well written. We may see some great views along the way, and please don't let me stop you if you'd like to pull over to take pictures. A view that you see now may not be the same on the way down, as the clouds, mist, and rain come and go very quickly here. If you do see a view you'd like to photograph, be sure to pull over, well off the road and out of the way, for your own safety and everyone else's.
sorry, there's no party. Hopefully we get up there soon.
Yeah, nó có clip sao đâu. Clip nhìn trong lòng á.
Nhưng mà còn được hai lên, được còn có đèn. Đỡ hơn hôm trước đi nhiều.
if there's oncoming traffic, I suggest we don't stop here. At the head, there are many more safer pullouts to views that we can get into more easily. In fact, for this drive, I suggest we go all the way to the top without stopping, except at the park fee booth. Then, on our way back down, I'll tell you about the viewpoints and overlooks, and you can decide which ones to stop at.
Okay, good.
Think of tectonic plates as being like cracked eggshell, sitting on top of the flesh of a soft-boiled egg. The plate is a slab of irregularly shaped rock. They usually are made up of rock that is under the ocean and rock that is above land. Plate thickness can vary from about 5 miles to 150 miles deep, depending on the age of the rock. Thinner areas tend to be much younger rock. One of the biggest plates of the dozen or so that exist on the Earth is the Pacific Plate, and the Hawaiian Islands sit near the middle of it. These massive plates move slowly, as if floating along the top of a thick liquid. The Pacific Plate moves a few centimeters per year, a similar speed to the rate your fingernails grow. The movement is in a northwest direction, towards Japan and Russia. We see the effects of the movement of the Pacific Plate in the form of fault lines and occasional earthquake activity. Many of us know about the San Andreas fault line that runs inland along the west coast of the USA and into Canada. That fault line provides us with a visible boundary between two tectonic plates. In this case, it is where the Pacific Plate meets the North American Plate. So that is the first concept for us. The land of the Earth and below the ocean is made up of giant plates that kind of float or drift along, constantly moving, albeit very slowly. Or like pine trees. In fact, they are Mexican weeping pines, a non-native species. They are notable by the clumps of long, drooping needles. Soon we won't see many trees at all as we climb even higher, and the vegetation turns to more stunted bushes and shrubs. We're nearly at the entrance to the national park.
Oh, near entrance. Good. It's
Mình đi cái
entrance
ghê
into the
trên
park.
xe. Hoặc là con ngừng con chạy xuống con lấy
No,
được.
Mom, this is a waste of time. There's cars behind us.
Đâu có sao đâu
It's
trời.
just going to the national. It's giving money to the national park. I don't care. We would have to pay no matter what if I didn't have a pass. It's in the zipper, Jen. I mean, oh no, I got it.
You are free area.
There's a bunch of cars behind us.
Really?
Relax.
We are now officially inside the national park. One of the unique man-made things inside this park is the Haleakala High Altitude Observatory site. The advantage of peering into the heavens with radio telescopes from the top of Haleakala is that it sits above 1/3 of the Earth's atmosphere and above 90% of the Earth's water vapor. This means less interference by thick air and therefore clearer signals. Haleakala was the first of Hawaii's high-altitude observatories. The other is on Mauna Kea on the Big Island of Hawaii. Haleakala's observatory was built first as it was considered easier to get to the top, and the very first observatory was constructed in 1964. Today, there is a collection of different observatories that are collectively known as Science City. The sister observatories on Mauna Kea are considered to have the best conditions for ground-based astronomy anywhere in the world. The amount of interfering light pollution is even less than here. If you are interested to take a look or perhaps a tour, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to. The observatories are working institutions and no public tours are offered.
Vậy nói cái best one là ở bên Hilo trong trước mình đi đó, cái observatory mà mình đi coi gazing star đó.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
You'll see the visitor center just up ahead at the park headquarters. Unless we desperately need a washroom, I suggest that we keep driving to the top. At the top, there's another visitor center that has the same information and interesting books and souvenirs available. We can stop here on the way down.
Vậy cũng not too bad hả?
Đường đi rất more than I expected.
Giờ mới có đi có 1 tiếng chứ mấy hả? 6 giờ mấy.
We're not there yet.
Khoảng chừng tiếng nói 1 tiếng rưỡi thì chắc đúng.
Đúng. Tiếng 2.
Rưỡi đâu cũng sớm.
Tiếng 2 hay mấy gì sẽ
You're supposed to get there early so you can see the darkness.
Go there, Daddy.
Mình cũng thấy darkness. Nothing
We're
or whatever.
outside.
Daddy
Stars.
hay to set up the.
Nhưng mà mấy cái star nó chiếu xuống rất sáng.
Duh, haven't you been living outside?
Good help. That's a good God help. we got everything yesterday too, today too. So everything is very on God.
If it's a normal day on Haleakala, then we've most likely already driven through a layer of cloud, or we might be driving through one right now. If we haven't reached any bands of cloud yet, then you should consider yourself very lucky, and you're definitely in the minority of visitors to Haleakala. But as I mentioned at the bottom, don't be discouraged if we're driving in thick clouds of fog and can't see much. Things can change very quickly, and we might suddenly drive into a completely open view. Sometimes we'll drive in and out of cloud as we move from the east to the west side of the slope and then back again. On many days, there'll be multiple bands of clouds at different elevations. There might be one band at 7,000 feet, and then it might be clear before reaching another band at 8,500 feet. All of this is perfectly normal here on Haleakala. What we really want is for it to be clear at the top. Be patient when we get there. If the clouds are thick, go into the visitor center for a while and look at some of the interesting books, models, and diagrams, or talk to the staff there. They're normally very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Chances are the cloud will blow away while we're there.
That's good. We don't see any cloud. That's been clear, very clear days. See, so far as we don't see any cloud, that means excellent. The way you said, sometimes we hit the cloud, but we don't hit any cloud. That means very clear days.
We were listening to the same exact thing. He's repeating it.
That's adventure.
You can't even see anything. I think you should stop recording.
In the crater. While the views from the visitor center are spectacular, there's something even more special about actually hiking into the crater and seeing the cinder cones firsthand. There are 3 degrees of difficulty that we can try. I'll start with the most difficult. For fit hikers, a really great trail to do is the one-way hike from the visitor center to the Halima'u'u trailhead just ahead. The hike is 11 miles long and it is exhausting. It's a glorious hike between cinder cones through lava fields. It gives you a great tour of the crater. Most of the hike is downhill, but at the end of the hike, there is a 2-mile uphill trail to get out of the crater. That's a tough thing to do at the end of the day. This hike is a full-day commitment, and we shouldn't even think about attempting it unless you've adequately prepared. A moderate hike that most reasonably fit people can do is to take the sliding sands trail from the visitor center. On this trail, it's about 2.5 miles to hike into the valley and get to the rim of a cinder cone. The elevation drop is about 1,400 feet, which is significant.
That's a lot.
For this walk, you have to go back the same way you came in, so it's a long uphill hike on a soft sandy trail to get back to the visitor center.
Hard.
To go to the first cinder cone and back takes about 3 hours for most people. On the trail, you'll see folks go as far as they feel comfortable before they take their photos and turn around. If that sounds too hard for you, we can get a nice close-up taste of the crater without getting too strenuous by going as far as the first switchback on the sliding sands trail. That walk is about 2/3 of a mile, with only a small elevation change. Most people can manage this easily, and you will get an even better sense of the crater than just looking from the viewpoints. Trail maps are available at the visitor center at the top.
Elevation not the 1400.
Was telling you about is just up on the next corner. If you see people hitchhiking, they're trying to get a ride to the summit, and then they'll hike back to their car.
That's funny.
Có người xuống.
The second concept to imagine is the hotspot. Incredibly hot, molten rock called magma sits under the Earth's surface. In places where the tectonic plate is thin or weak, the magma can find its way to the surface in the form of a volcanic eruption, or what is called a plume. In the case of the Hawaiian Islands, the initial breaking of the hotspot through the crust occurs underwater in the ocean. But that's not always the rule. While each island in the Hawaiian chain has a different story, here's a good way to think about it. We know the giant Pacific plate is moving. There are thinner and weaker points in the plate. As a weak section in the plate passes over the hot spot, the crust is broken and magma rises up through the plate and starts forming new rock that grows higher and higher. The new volcano keeps growing until it kind of plugs itself and stops the flow of the plume. This takes place over millions of years. As the plate is always moving, new weak areas pass over the same hotspot. This starts brand new eruptions as the old formations have stopped being active and moved along away from the hotspot. Think of a conveyor belt making chocolates. The hot chocolate is squeezed out, the conveyor belt moves along a little, then more hot chocolate is squeezed out, and the process keeps repeating. And so we have a model for the creation of the chain of islands. We can see evidence of that by looking at a map, and see that if we draw a line through Kauai, Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island, it's almost a straight line pointing northwest.
Now we're 5:54. We arrive. So 25 miles per hour.
Hawaii's youngest island, the Big Island of Hawaii. The reason that I want to talk about the Big Island is that it is actually the newest of the Hawaiian islands and is still alive in geological terms. And by that I mean that the Big Island is still growing, getting bigger through volcanic activity. Mauna Loa is the Big Island's largest volcano and is a shield volcano. If you consider its size from the ocean floor to its peak, 13,800 feet above sea level, it is actually the world's biggest mountain at about 33,000 feet from top to bottom. Mount Everest reaches 29,029 feet at its peak, all above ground. All of the islands in Hawaii are derived from shield volcanoes. In fact, the Big Island was created by 5 different volcanoes that were each active at different times. As each plume began creating rock, the new rock would spread over the previously active area, causing it to grow too, but not from its own internal activity. Now, if we remember about the plate moving northwest, it makes sense that the closest part of the Big Island to Maui, called Kohala, is the oldest part of the island. In fact, Kohala is now considered dormant. But as we move southeasterly across to the opposite end of the Big Island, we move to the youngest part of the island, Kilauea, which is still actively spewing lava and occasionally exploding vents. And if we go even further to the southeast into the ocean, remember that is the opposite direction to the plate movement. It's like moving to a younger or newer time. There is an active undersea volcano called Lo'ihi, about 20 miles off the coast of the Big Island. The top of Lo'ihi is still about 3,100 feet below the water's surface. It's expected to break the surface and become another Hawaiian island in about 50,000 years. It's more likely, though, that Kilauea, the currently active volcano, will be much bigger by then, and it will join Lo'ihi. So Lo'ihi will be the 6th volcano on the Big Island. It all makes good sense if you think about it. Everything moving toward the northwest and passing over one hotspot that's causing all of the eruption activity. That's how the chain of islands was and still is being formed. Maui is the second youngest of the islands. The Big Island is the newest. From what we now know, it should not be surprising for me to tell you that Maui was formed by 2 volcanoes. The first was Pu'ukukui, which is at the northwest end of the island. That's the one with the wind farm on it. The second is here at the southeast end of the island and is Haleakala. Haleakala is huge, like Mauna Kea on the Big Island. From its true base at the ocean floor, Haleakala is 30,000 feet from bottom to top. At its tallest, Haleakala reached an altitude of 12,000 feet above sea level. Now it's just a touch over 10,000. So why is it 2,000 feet shorter today? One reason is that the ocean floor actually bends a little under the tremendous weight of all that new rock above it. Also, it would be reasonable to think that with lava pouring out of the top of a volcano, it would have a nice-shaped peak. But what can happen is that beneath the peak, a pool of lava can break out and flow out from the side of the new mountain. This causes the top to collapse down on itself, and that is likely what happened on Haleakala. When we look at the small cinder cones inside what is called the crater, these are examples of small younger vents that formed very late in the volcano's active life. But the biggest force that is reducing the height of Haleakala is erosion. New volcanic rock is relatively soft and is worn down by water and wind.
Cũng hay á.
Summit
Summit.
and how many miles? Dad, did you read that sign?
Oh.
There's 5 people in the car, 1 person can't look at the sign.
Nếu mà mẹ ấy mẹ tại mẹ nhắm mắt ngủ chứ nếu mẹ cũng nhìn thấy.
Chưa để xíu đọc.
Giống như hồi đó ở đâu.
I said that Maui and the Big Island were formed by the growing of shield volcanoes. This means that the volcanoes grew up quite slowly through long but non-violent eruptions. It's more like a slow ooze of magma. As more magma rises out of the volcano, it spreads all around, slowly getting taller and taller, but also getting wider and wider. That is where the idea of them being shaped like a shield comes from, as opposed to a tall, steep mountain. The other type of volcano, and the one that usually gets portrayed in movies, is a composite volcano. Composites are characterized by violent explosions, usually caused by gases building up pressure beneath thick, stickier magma. Our shield volcanoes here in Hawaii don't seem to have experienced the same pressurization, so they don't explode like Mount St. Helens in Washington did.
About this one, there's a lot of car behind, in front of us, and a lot of car behind us. So this is the most interesting place to see the sunrise on top of Haleakala mountain. Second.
Those silver bushes that we see growing between the rocks are called silver swords. I'm going to talk more about them when we drive down. At the summit lookout, we can see some nice examples of this unique plant up close. Be careful not to step off the pathways around them. They have very delicate root systems and can be easily damaged just by footsteps.
And the lady went here the day before yesterday, said here's some flower bloom just once in a lifetime.
You know, all the stuff I read, I never read anything.
Center at an elevation of 9,740 feet.
Oh.
So how cold is it up here today? When we arrive, stay left for the parking area. Find a parking space and we can go inside and take a look at the view and get information about the volcano and national park. There are public washrooms available here at the visitor center. If you do want to take a hike into the crater, long or short, information on trails is available inside. If you already have a trail map and you want to start the Sliding Sands Trail, then we'll see the trailhead off to the right, around the rock mound next to the car park. After we leave the center, keep driving further up to the summit for the Pu'u'ula'ula lookout at 10,023 feet. And please remember, Ika Haleaku e ho'oma amau ikawa, which means when you leave, return it as you found
I
it.
think you might go up more.
Có thể go up được nữa con à.
Yeah. Because this is only 9,000.
Con lên nữa đi chạy lên con đừng đậu đây.
Đậu đây cái gì?
Đậu đây rồi đi bộ lên.
We're still looking for a parking space for the visitor center, then keep trying.
Where everyone else is doing now. Everyone's like that.
I didn't know. That guy's like, see ya, suckers.
It's just a couple of seconds to the Pu'u'ula'ula lookout. At the lookout, they have some excellent displays that help explain the unique geology of Haleakala and the Hawaiian Islands. Let's go take a look, and of course remember to take your camera. We'll be at an elevation of over 10,000 feet, and you'll probably find yourself short of breath just doing simple things like climbing stairs. So let's make sure we only have to do it once. This mound of rock on our left is called Magnetic Peak. It's a cinder cone, and it is so high in iron content that it can actually alter the way of compass points. We get a clue about the iron content by the red color of the rock. Ula, the point at which the overlook sits, is also a cinder cone.
Cloud in it.
He should turn on his
We hit the cloud. So submit. Don't say anything. Woo!
Dad.
Right here. Back right here.
I'm just gonna park.
It's too early. Oh, what are you?
Jag går inte. Men man rör på sig jättegärna. Ja, svenskor.
Lên con. Đó, mình có lấy đi con. Đi ra, chơi cút đi. Đúng rồi.
Yeah, you can see it. See it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry.
We're in the end. We'll have to meet our
Okay.
side. That would be all very good help.
Now it's 6:15 at Haka Alokai.
Yeah, you gotta put it further. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Hello.
Yeah, there you are. Like that, yeah.
Đây này con. Này. Đó. Thấy không?
Yeah.
Thấy không?
It's too high now.
Ai Hello.
Yeah, you can see. I can see you.
Okay. Woo. Yeah, good. Good. Today is December 24, 2014. We at the top of the mountain Hakalai. We look at the sunrise right now. Now it's 6:20 a.m. phim đi chị Ly, đứng lên con, đứng lên, cao một xíu nữa.
It's not that bad now that the sun's out.
Đứng đây. Here the family, more dawn in the town. Mom, cold, windy. Jenny, happy birthday, Jenny. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jenny. Here, Julie, tapping. Down here, Jenny, Julie, tapping.
Joy, are you taking any with your phone? Jesus Christ.
Don't worry. Dad, hold it still. You're gonna miss it. Hold it still. Stop the picture.
Dad, why don't you go walk outside for a little bit?
Okay, so.
So warm a little bit. It's coming.
Schedule on the internet says the sun will rise at 6:55. Actually 6:54 today on the June 24th of December 2014, the Christmas Eve.
Dad, why are you acting like it's so cold? Why don't you walk inside? For
Okay.
like 5 minutes.
Okay.
No, I'm not acting.
It's a little bit warmer now that the sun's out.
Happy birthday, Jenny. Jenny Vian Nguyen, happy birthday. She born at 11:30 p.m. tonight, 26 years ago. Oh, look at him up.
Why? What the heck is this? Oh shit, it got clear.
15 more minutes, the sun will show up.
Xanh đâu? Xanh chỗ nào vậy đi?
Huh?
Xanh chỗ nào? Xanh xuống rồi.
Where the light is?
Đây hết đây. Đó, đây hết đây.
Wait.
Ở đấy ngồi xuống đây.
Dad, it's cold.
Happy birthday, Jenny! December 24, 2014.
Oh my god.
Just go.
It's not cold at all. I'm good.
एकैछिन मात्रै हो तपाईँ यो आँखा पुरै रातो
No. I just want to enjoy the view. View.